Welcome back, everyone, to Runeterra's favorite listening station. Good Morning Runeterra, where every region has a voice and every story finds its place. My name is Voy, and I hope everyone out there is doing well on this fine day. I know I am. It's been a minute, but I feel like I have a whole different perspective on life recently, and I think this new outlook is at least partially owed to this book I've been reading. I recognize that not many of you tune into my show for book reviews, but I'd like to make an exception and take a moment to talk about this. It's a little known literary masterpiece called How to Make Friends and Execute People. It's all about the seemingly impossible task of balancing the responsibilities of an autocrat with unchecked power and still being approachable at social events. I'm right in the middle of the section of how to bisect someone respectfully. I'll tell you more about what the book has to offer after a word from our sponsor. Hey there, champ. Feeling like just another face in the crowd? Tired of looking in the mirror and seeing someone who's not Draven? Well, don't you worry anymore, because I, Draven, am here to help. Introducing Draven Dudes Box, the ultimate for him monthly subscription, packed with everything a real Noxian man needs to look, feel, and be almost as incredible as Draven himself. Inside each box, Draven's signature beard oil, because only weaklings have patchy beards, Draven's ultra sharp razor for precision lighting or emergency axe maintenance, Draven approved muscle balm, makes you feel swole even if you skipped arm day. Pathetic. A Draven side mirror decal, so every time you look at yourself, you remember who you should aspire to be. And here's the best part. Sign up now and use the exclusive code DRAVEN in person at select Noxian armories for 15% off your first box. Draven Dudes Box, because looking almost as good as Draven is better than looking like you. I actually know Draven personally, and while I don't have nearly the same stuff, or Riz as the kids say, as he does, I can promise you one thing. He certainly is Draven. No one can take that away from him, so you've got to admire that. I personally love the beard oil I got in his last box, and I can safely say I am no longer a, quote, weakling with a patchy beard, end quote. Once again, that's code DRAVEN for 15% off your first box. Okay, so about the book. Unless you've been living in an underground chamber beneath Iksu, you already know not only the book, but also the mystery surrounding it. No one knows who wrote it. Despite being one of the most popular literary works across Runeterra, having been republished and re-released as everything from required higher education reading to at one point a children's book of all things, the original author's identity has been lost to time. And that's not for lack of trying, as linguists have been trying to discern the identity and or whereabouts of this infamous author for years now, in no small part due to the many crimes inscribed upon its pages. According to both authorities and publishing houses, there's even this one infamous section that they keep retracting because it goes into a step-by-step detail on how to make something called a reverse pinata. Now, I have no idea what that is, but I can say for certain that this author had a way with words. Take, for instance, this passage on page 26. I alone am the bastion between eternal existence and oblivion. Now, some people have taken to reading this as arrogance or insanity, but that's way too narrow an interpretation. Of course, the author is not being literal here, you guys. I alone is probably the closest to being literal, and even then, I have instead taken to understanding this more as a mantra that you alone are that light in the darkness, that bastion between a life worth living, aka eternal existence, and obscurity, aka oblivion. And as a micro-celebrity myself, I feel this. Besides, making meaningful relationships is absolutely a part of having a life worth living. And before you say anything, yes, oblivion could technically instead mean death, since much of the book is about executing your adversaries and citizens, hence the title. However, to play Teemo's advocate, I'd simply say this. You're forgetting the other half of the title. Boom. I bet I blew your mind just a little. Alrighty, folks, that's about all the time I can dedicate to this particular topic today, but let me know if you'd like another literary analysis in a future episode. Now, I, of course, would never lead you astray, dear listener, but I wouldn't be doing our next guest justice if I didn't give them the proper credit that they deserved. Self-proclaimed experts in all things black and rosy. Please welcome Derland and an anonymous speaker. So, have either of you heard about the rumor going around that this notorious Black Rose organization is actually run by a short king?
No.
I heard that they are a secret cabal of world figures that manipulates world events in order to pursue goals that are beyond our understanding, and by the time we realize what it is, what they're actually after, it'll be far too late.
And I heard that they don't exist at all.
Wait, how would you even hear that something doesn't exist? I mean, I would believe you if you said that you doubted their existence or that an expert said it, but you heard someone say that something doesn't exist?
Yes, and I am an expert. That's how you introduced us.
So your expert testimony is what, yourself? Based on what evidence?
Because I said so.
But you can't just say, I'm quoting myself, and when I ask you to cite your sources, go, trust me. Okay, well, moving on. Let's just pretend for a moment that this mysterious, secret, impossible to find cabal is real. Hypothetically. What do we know about them?
Well, we know that people love a good story. Secret organizations, shadowy figures pulling the strings. It's the kind of thing people cling to when reality gets too boring or complicated to face.
Right, but hear me out. What if the black rose isn't a group, but like a flower? You ever seen a black rose in nature? No, right? That's because they're unnatural, artificial, manufactured in a lab. I'm talking alchemy, I'm talking hextech, I'm talking underground zonite petting zoo level secret. A zonite petting zoo? Yeah, you think those blink dogs and radiant hedgehogs train themselves? No, sir, that's conditioning, mind control. I'm just saying. Start looking at who's breeding the magical animals and follow the fur trail. It all goes up.
Yes, up. Right up into nonsense. You're connecting dots that with a crayon on a wall map drawn in ketchup.
To be fair, that sounds like something the Black Rose would want you to say.
Of course it does.
But if they did exist, I'm not saying they do, but if they did, who do we think might be in charge? Easy. It's always someone you never expect, like a pastry chef or that one neighbor who always wears gloves, even in summer. Maybe even brace yourselves, an actor. You ever notice how many of them seem to be in every region, playing every role, always just showing up with a new name and backstory? Coincidence? I think not. Wait, are you suggesting that famed Piltover actor Donovan Tristov is part of a secret world dominating conspiracy? Uh, I'm just saying that I've never seen Donovan Tristov and Swain in the same room.
They have completely different builds.
That's what you think. Honestly, I don't hate the theory.
You should. Everyone should.
Well, let me play conspiracy advocate again. What about the signs, hidden messages? There's that tavern in Noxus called the Gilded Horn. That's one thorn short of a rose, if you ask me. And what of the number 7? What about it? Exactly. Okay, darling, you've clearly done your research. I've been banned from 17 forums for having too much insight.
Or enough sense.
Let's dial it in for a second. If the Black Rose was real, what's the endgame? Control, power, immortality?
If they were real, their endgame would be narrative control, shaping events so thoroughly that no matter what happens, war, peace, rebellion, revolution, they've already planned for it. They want people to ask the wrong questions, focus on the wrong enemies, and worship the wrong heroes.
Obvious misdirect. The endgame is clearly to reanimate the ghost of Science pet cat. He had a cat? Had. Then the cat started asking questions. Right. You know what? I think we're going to need to leave it there for today. I feel like we learned a lot.
We didn't.
Speak for yourself. I found clarity. To our listeners out there, stay vigilant, stay skeptical, and stay fabulous. Whether or not the Black Rose is watching us, I'll be watching the Black Rose. And if anyone asks, we never had this conversation. Oh, and next week we'll be discussing how to properly approach and interact with Yordles. You do not want to miss that. Good morning and good luck.
Good morning, Runeterra, where every region has a voice and every story finds its place.